All right, everyone, we're back with another great episode with the Santa Fe Gloom Podcast. As always, we would like to thank our sponsors who believe in our mission and vision of the Santa Fe Gloom, supporting the players on and off the court. We're so very thankful for all the community involvement now that we've got our first season done. So thank you so very much to the Pantry Dose of Santa Fe, City of Santa Fe Economic Development, Capital Ford, Sam's Club. Thank you guys so very much. Mercedes Benz of Santa Fe and the Botwin I Group, Oculus downtown Santa Fe. So thank you all so very much for all the generosity that you give the Santa Fe Gloom, the players in the community. So we appreciate it so much. Want to give a shout out to Mucho Soccer. I think this is the first time I'm wearing it on a podcast. So it's Northern Soccer. And obviously, we're advocating for more indoor and outdoor space for soccer fields for everybody in the community. So I love the t-shirt, Scott. You did a great job. It says on the back of the shirt, it says, "Don't be a goat head." So I was at the gym last week and a guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, what does that shirt say?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's about soccer." So I grew up outside of Santa Fe, and when I was riding my bike, I'd always get goat heads. So, and even in Santa Fe, you get the goat head. So, great marketing, Northern Soccer, and then I also want to give a shout out to my niece. She basically some artwork from the Santa Fe Gloom can kind of show it. It says to Uncle David, and it says "Go Santa Fe Glooms." So that was super cool. She did this during the game, so this is like authentic artwork. It is not for sale, but she does have other things for sale. She's an entrepreneur, so we're teaching her the right way. So, but so shout out to my beautiful niece Ella. Thank you so very much, and you'll be seeing Biscuit probably today. So thank you so much, and to our guest, Krystin. Thank you so much for joining us. A FIFA futsal referee. When I do these podcasts, I'm pretty usually laid back. But then I saw the Raiders up on top, that flag, and I know I was like, "Oh boy, yeah, that's right." Because I'm a hardcore Bronco fan. But we'll take it easy on you. But thank you so much for jumping on today.
You're welcome, of course.
So, Krystin, please start off just with your first memories of playing soccer, like your first soccer experience.
Geez, I was probably about half the height I am now, much shorter. And I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and we were on the Rockets. It was such a cute little name because we wanted to run everywhere. And I remember just being a goalkeeper. For some reason, I wanted to be a goalkeeper. And like squatted down and I was all like going like this, like looking like a crab. And it was the best memory ever because I tried to save a goal and kids in cleats, my shoelace got caught in my cleat and I still saved it, but I was stuck on the ground not being able to move because I my cleat was stuck. I was stuck. It sucked. But it was a great memory. It was like long, long grass when people wouldn't cut it. And
Yeah,
my dad was actually my coach. So it was quite the cute little rocket I was.
that's awesome. And what was the transition from playing soccer, right, to refereeing? Like, what possessed you to make that big change?
Honestly, I got bored of not making money. I was a kid and I was like, you know what? I want to go to the movies. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then my dad stopped coaching me because he had adult things to do.
Hmm.
And I was 12 and a half at the time. And this was, I'm not going to try and date myself, but this was in August 2006. So I was like, okay, cool, And they said, hey, Isaac, we need a referee or we need more referees. And he's like, why? He's like, well, you always yell at us, so we need more. So the age cutoff was 12, 13 years old. So he gathered us all up. It's my sister and myself and then my dad. So it's just us three and gathered us and then we took a class. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be here. I'm tired of like just kicking a ball around. I want to make some money. So I said, why not? I get to spend quality father-daughter time and get some sun.
Right. And what was the point like where you started to like it? Because my assumption is you're going from like goalie to like maybe a field player playing on a team to refereeing, and you're still doing it as a career now. So what was kind of that point where you're like, you know what, like I can actually do this. Like I just called a PK and like this is great. Like I really like it. Or I gave a good yellow or a red card, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this feels really good. Like what was kind of that point where you're like, this is awesome?
Honestly, I think I was maybe about 15 years old. I was like a little bit kind of like, I think 8th grade, 9th grade kind of like situation. And I said, you know what? This is fun. And I had the toughest decision of my life. It was a rec team. One of the coaches behind me was yelling and screaming. And I knew him because I played against him. And I was like, oh man. And literally, the toughest moment was to turn around, not yell and scream at him, but be like, "You're not being nice to me." And that's all that came out of my mouth instead of anything mean. And I was like, "You know what? I could do this for a living
Cool.
because I was calling offside and my next game was a referee. So I like stuck my flag up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so nerve-wracking." And they were off by like
Yeah.
miles,
Yeah.
And I said, I could do this for a living. I could politely tell someone to stop yelling at me because back then, you couldn't give misconducts or yellows or reds to your coaches. It was just a conversation, ask, tell, dismiss, and then they're gone, but nothing publicly shown. So it's like, I'm just going to tell this guy to stop being mean to me and we'll see how this goes. So, yeah.
Awesome. And we'll pause on talking about futsal for the moment, but talk us through beach soccer and college soccer. But let's start with beach soccer because I don't know anything about it. So, and I don't know if our listeners do. So, share your experience being a referee there in that space and kind of the differences between futsal and like outdoor arena soccer.
Okay. So, to set the playing field, for those that know what futsal is, you kind of understand 5v5, kind of that little style. Beach soccer is just a different like playing field. It is kind of closely related to futsal, but there's some minor tweaks. Beach soccer, you're obviously playing on almost the wider dimensions of the field. You still have 5v5, you have a goalkeeper, subs are on the fly.
And
It,
this is on a beach.
this is on a beach. That's
Okay.
the fun part. I was going to
Okay.
drop that right there and be like,
Okay.
oh, guess what?
Cool.
You can't run because you're on a beach and it sucks.
Right. Right.
So this
Right.
puts you on the sand and you're working against all elements. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. You have to learn how to run on a beach, like lift your legs higher, bicycle kicks, all those fun things. Beach soccer, you have your counting whenever they kick in.
Okay.
Your goalkeeper is allowed to only hold on to the ball for X amount of seconds, still the same as futsal. Um, let's see. And for us, we didn't really have any timeouts like futsal. It's just it continued to go. As a referee, you're still doing the dynamic switches. However, for players, they are a little bit more lenient on this dangerous play style because there's this thing for like basketball, right? Changing sports, where you're about to do a bicycle kick, and if you are already here and you start biking up, you're okay. The person that's behind you that pushes on you is the one that's causing the foul. Makes sense. However, if you're
Yeah.
starting to do a bike and someone just like stands there and like leans, it's a foul against them. So there's a lot more like tic-tacky little like things you have to pay attention to. If the biker goes into the player behind them, it's a foul against them. So people are like, "What?" Like, and they want to create an environment where you can have a lot more finesse and style. Um, yeah, I did a couple years ago. I did the USA Open Men's Cup like that down in San Diego, I believe. And one of the players recognized me. He's like, "Oh man, beach soccer's so cool." I'm like, "It's hard, man. Like, you have to learn how to run. You have to learn how to count differently. It's so much fun." But
Eh,
to yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
Beach soccer is just it's hot. It's a lot of running. It's hot,
Mhm.
and you it's not like grass soccer at all.
Right. And is there like a pro league in the United States or is this international play?
So, they have obviously a FIFA badge for beach soccer.
Okay.
It goes across the country. They just had something in oh, I just forgot one of my friends was there and shoot. Anyways, there is international, but the one that I was at was kind of establishing their players to go qualify for nationals and to then qualify to go to their FIFA beach soccer tournament at the time.
Got it. And is there recreational beach
There
soccer?
is.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is. That's actually so to link that now, that's after I was done with a little bit of like playing outdoor soccer, I did more recreational beach soccer refereeing wise. It was down in kind of like either Santa Cruz, kind of my alma mater area,
Mhm.
or San Francisco, and it was just wherever there's a beach, you can lay out some tape and make a little court. It's it's youth to like almost um, semi-professional men and women's. There's co-ed teams, and there was just a lot. We actually had some international players come, and it was from like Brazil and from Portugal, and there was a couple Egypt guys. That was the weird
Interesting.
part. Yeah, I
Interesting.
was like, they're used to the beach, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's international, truly. And shout out to Nick Cashmere for the bicycle kick that he had on our first game. I don't know if you saw it. Well, we need to post that video. We're still salty about it, obviously. I mean, it's been months, but whenever I think of a bicycle kick, I think of Nick. So Nick, you're gonna do more bikes, and maybe Nick needs to play some beach soccer, I guess. So,
Yeah.
and then talk us through college soccer as well, just kind of how you got involved in that.
So I decided that money needed to be important when I was in college. And I was like, okay, you know what? I see all these teams playing around. I want to ref them, but I couldn't because I was in college at the time. So I had to wait. And I moved away from California for a little bit, went to Arizona, moved back, and I said, you know what? I'm going to start refing something. And high school soccer wasn't the right season. It was like August, July. I came back and I said, you know what? Let's connect with somebody that I think is in charge of assigning this high
Hmm.
school, college, whatever soccer I think I
Hmm.
could see. So I got into it and I put in my application, and it's not easy, you guys. It's not just here, let me ref. It's application, fitness test, your physical when you go to the doctors, and then also like your application fee, etc., and what sizes you need for your jerseys. So
Hmm.
I got into it because I said, you know what, UC Santa Cruz has a couple teams that I may want to ref one day, 5 years down the line, and I got into it, and then I started advancing more and more with it. So, yeah.
And now I feel like futsal is your bread and butter. Would you say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's so cool that you were the first female FIFA referee in the United States, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, talk us through that and like just how big of an honor that is and how that came about. You know, getting that FIFA futsal accredited badge. Walk us through the steps of that. And congratulations, it's super cool. And you came out and refed our Santa Fe versus Brusa game, and you did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
So I mean, it's like you can tell the levels for sure. You know, when we have like local referees who we feel like they do a great job, but when we get someone of your caliber, you know, flying in from another state, it's like, yeah, this is a whole different level. So talk us through the steps on that, how all that happened.
So there's a lot to put into getting to be the best of the best, right?
Hmm.
It's not just walk up here, here's all
Hmm.
my, game assessments, meaning people have watched me, or hey, here's all my game count. You have to perform at the bottom level and move your way up that ladder. So we have these events, they're called regionals, and
Okay.
there's roughly three organizations that you need to show face and kind of show importance to. Whereas outdoor soccer, right, you have one. It's to level the playing ground for that. There's USSF, which is the soccer federation, and that's a clear path of how to move up. Futsal, it's not. It's a lot of inner workings between the organizations. You have to do well here and move up. You have to do
Okay.
well in the next one and move up. So out of those three organizations, I had to go and travel so much for these. I felt bad. I wasn't home. Sorry, home,
Right.
but I wasn't
Right.
home.
Yeah.
And I traveled with my dad. And so he encouraged me to go to these events. I started in 2013, and I was at a local event here in Walnut Creek, California, and it's about an hour and a half away from my house. But I went to a regional, so I said, okay, I'm gonna try this. and a whole different style of counting. We were
Right.
counting up here first
Yeah.
instead of this new
Ah,
mechanism, and you have to
makes
go to
sense.
classes and learn from teachers and assessors. They were called referee assessors back then. Now they're called referee mentors or coaches, and you just build that up. And then I found this other organization, and they had adults, they had men's, they had women's, they had all these harder, challenging games. And like a normal situation, you have to get your normal badge, which is your basic level badge you get in when you get in, a regional, then a national, and then once you reach that national level, that's when all eyes are on you. And they've probably been watching you for a while. So
Right.
just to move up in all those different organizations, it was it was hard, but that kind of helps establish the little bit of like hard work that had to be put into it. So starting in like 2013, taking a little bit of a
Wow.
break,
Wow.
yeah, and
Wow.
then hammering it down in 2018 until now. It was a lot of work going to Florida, going to different, where'd we go to? Kansas City. It was just, I was never home.
Right. And the men's final that you refereed, you were the first female referee to ref a men's final. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
So talk us through those steps and just your feeling if you felt excited, nervous, just that preparation time, you know, just talk us through that because that's amazing. I mean, that's a huge, huge honor.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'll target preparation first.
Okay.
So after going to some events and then getting like one of my mentors out there and he said, "You know what, Kristen, you're ready." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I didn't know I was getting this badge, so I was like working hard. I did like other local games that I could, and then the funniest part was I got called on September 11th. And I was
Yeah.
like, "You know what? What's this phone call for?" And it's like I just thought I was working hard, and they said, congratulations, Kristen. You have your FIFA badge." I'm like, "What?" So I had
Wow.
to video call my dad and my sister, and it's my dad's birthday too. I said, "Hey, happy birthday, Dad." So the mental
That's
preparation
awesome.
is a lot. Like he cried, I cried, my sister cried,
Wow.
and I have a screenshot of that, and we were just like all sitting there going, "Oh my god, why?" And I didn't know for the longest time that I was the first female in the United States. That was shocking.
Hmm.
And I thought there had been others, predecessors that I could learn from out of country, yeah, but in the United States,
What did
yeah,
that mean to you?
that was so much pressure. And I
Mm,
can't lie about that. My
yeah.
face is a bad liar. I am a bad liar. And
Hmm.
it was the biggest pressure in the world because there's little girls and there's either little boys too or
Yeah.
grown women or everyone. They look at you now and they're like, "You are a role model." I'm
Hmm.
like, "Role model? Okay,
Yeah.
whatever." And it was the coolest experience to know that and know that I want to give back to them and I want to
Hmm.
make sure that whoever comes from my tiny little hometown, shout out to you guys, Cameron Park, California.
Hmm.
That was you could go anywhere as long as you push yourself. So that heavy title started to weigh down on me and I was like, I okay. And I had to accept it more rather than just like brush it off and be like, "I know it's okay. It's just a
Right.
futsal badge." Like
Right.
I had to let it sink in and I couldn't
Yeah.
just push it away for more months or days or hours and just sleep it off. No.
Right. Yeah, and that might be like a superpower, I guess, too, right? Is like now you get to represent, for the ladies, for your culture, right, and for the entire game of futsal internationally, right? So that's super impressive. So congratulations from all of Santa Fe, New Mexico, our players, fans, community sponsors. Like we're so honored to have you on, and so honored to have you ref one of our games too.
Oh,
So
thanks.
congratulations. Yeah, super cool.
Thanks.
Uh, and now talk us through like some of the weird things that you've seen as a referee and some of like what the players have tried to get away with. I can kind of give you one when I was playing college soccer. We were winning, it was like 3-1. We were beating, I think it was Regis up in Denver. And I was trying to waste the time. So there was a free kick. I grabbed the ball and said like the ball was flat. I told the referee, it's like the ball's flat. And they got a new ball. So it worked. So give us some type of story if you have one, if you can remember one where it was just like ridiculous. You're like, come on, dude, like it's not a foul, or don't even start that.
Um, so every single time I go into a game, I actually have to mentally prepare for some of these things,
Yeah.
because I know women's soccer way different than men's soccer.
Hmm.
So, and this leads up to the men's final, how I had to prepare for that as well. So I started back on doing these uh, more recreational and then semi-pro games, and there was a moment, and I always remind myself of this moment. If a player is not happy with you, they will look over your head, Kristen. Mind you guys,
Hmm.
I'm 5 foot.
Yeah.
I am 5 flat, or as some of my friends say, 4'12". But I am 5 foot. If a player doesn't like you,
Hmm.
they will look over your head. And if they don't want to make eye contact with you, you're sunk. And so every single time I go into the games, I do this like they call it power stances, where you're stretching, your arms are back, your arms are on your sides, your arms are crossed, like it's having that bigger posture, right? So you never have
Okay.
to tackle this because you're taller. So, and as a female, you are not going to get their presence, you're not going to get their attention ever. Ever, ever, ever.
Hmm.
Unless you come out with that confidence and have that slow, stern, firm conversation, then you'll be okay. So, preparing for that, it's they're always going to look over your head.
Okay.
And there's this thing that it was a clicking moment. One of my mentors from Maryland told me, he's like, Kristen, look at them dead in the eye and be like, hey, talk to me. And if they look over your head, stand there, say, fine, we're just going to sit here then. And so that moment happened in one of my men's games. He was pissed. He was looking over my head. He was just going, yeah, sure. And just looking past me. I said, I'm going to stand here. You need to talk to me. And he was screaming. I'm like, and I know when a player really wants to just vent, emotionally vent, it's fine, but they're just going to stand there. And it's just like, what do you do? And so it's those moments where I go, okay, I need to understand you're upset, you're hurt, whatever. Even women don't yell at you. They just talk to you, say, hey, just kind of being a, huh,
Hmm.
help me. And that moment of time when I can prepare myself mentally, physically, emotionally for that moment when they're going to look straight over my head, it's like, come on. Now you're just either wasting time, you're trying to be disrespectful to me, or your heart rate's too high and you're not even thinking. So those moments like that is like trying to take a
Hmm.
breath and let them just go for a second
Hmm.
and command that presence back. I know a couple times, because you already dropped Nick's name. There's a
Hmm.
couple times where he turned and yelled at me and said, hey, I hear you. He's like, that's never going to happen here. I'm like, I understand. Thank you. And you just stop. And they're like, she means business. So yeah, that's a moment, like, besides, delaying the restart, there's
Yeah.
silly things you guys do, like tie your shoe extra long. I'm like, okay. And they're like, oh, these reffing, they're wasting time. I'm like, I personally don't care. I have it
Right.
here. Stop
Right.
complaining. You're wasting your
Right.
breath. And they'll go, oh,
Right.
oh. So I mean, stuff like that is like you have to prepare with two or three quick lines of just saying, please stop. I hear you. Thank you. So yeah.
And what is if a player doesn't? Give him a card?
So there's the part of refereeing that not a lot of people learn at, like, your competition, your competitive levels, like rec, competitive, semi-pro. You don't learn it until you learn yourself. And a
Okay.
weird turn that may take, you can't just, and I mean this is for me, you guys.
Hmm.
You can't just go in and be like, "Hey, I'm done with you. Here's your card." Because then you're, quote, we call it card happy.
Okay.
You really have to stop as a referee. Control your heart rate much better than anyone else on that court, and know when they're complaining, you have to have an honest conversation. 2, 3 words. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss that? You only get 2 of those in a game. And if they keep wanting to go, we go through like considerations of what dissent is: public, provocative, personal. Provocative's the easy one.
Hmm.
Personal is more like, referee, suck, dropping all those F
Hmm.
bombs and things.
Hmm.
And that's when it becomes personal, when it's like, you did this, or you referee, and they start pointing at you. And then public is when they get louder. So, as a human, right, as people we are, You learn when to engage, and you know you have to build that emotional intelligence of when to listen,
Hmm.
let them vent for a second. Because, like, as a fourth official, right, in outdoor soccer, you can just stand there, listen to the coach. Sometimes ask them, like, hey, how's it going back home? Or, hey, how was your day at work? And they go, what? And they go, phoom. And they bring all their screaming and whatnot out. You're like, oh. So there is a fine line when someone crosses that, the three P's, but usually a descent card has to be really, really, really bad. None of your players, none of the Brusa players, anyone that I've encountered just recently in that game
Hmm.
have ever wanted me to like cross that barrier and be like, why are you yelling? And being real with players and showing them that you're not just a robot, right? You're just like there to
Hmm.
do a game, that you can hear them and you will find a solution if you don't have one already. That's what usually calms them down. But if they just want to keep talking, you find, okay, I'm just going to disengage with you. I'm going to let you have your moment because there's no use standing around getting yelled at.
Right.
Disengage, let them have their emotional vent moment, and then you carry on. And if they come after you again, that's when you're like, hey, we just talked there. You're talking like that. I'm using this card now to modify your behavior. Do not talk to me like that. Thank you. Card.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been told to say thank you, except if a player wants to scream, "Thank you, I hear you, we're done." It's just, oof.
And in a high stakes game, let's say a championship game or a semifinal, where the game is tied, and let's say it's super close to the penalty box, and there's a player that tackles the off or a defensive player tackles the offensive player, and the crowd goes crazy, and you've got a second to make a call or no call. What goes through your mind there? And
So,
I know it's a tough one, but
it is.
and I may not be painting the picture, but I think you get my vibe on
I do.
what calculations are you going through your mind in literally a split second, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
so there's
that's what makes or breaks good referees, in my opinion, is making those good
exactly.
calls, right? That's
Mhm.
where you get to that other level because I think a poor referee would make a bad call there, and then the decision is made based off that call.
Yeah.
So, what calculations are you doing in your brain in those split seconds?
Okay. So through training, we go through these considerations, which is a list of like kind of things to consider when you're making a decision. For instance, people say handball, like, oh, it hit their hand. You're like, well, is it unnatural, like an unnatural
Mhm,
body
mhm,
position? Is it making them bigger? Is it a
mhm,
secondary movement? Stuff like that. So we go through these lists of considerations, and that list prepares us when we have a PK or we have a foul outside the area or we have some type of boundary line decision, meaning outside for goal kick, goal clearance,
right,
or penalty, or even just sometimes on the touch line. You're like, oh my God, there's a foul coming at me. And it's like, what happened first, the foul or the out of bounds?
right,
So we go through all of these things and practice it, and it's like almost
okay,
like trigger memory.
okay,
So that's one side of it.
mhm,
The other side is now realizing you have more time than a second because all players know what advantage is, but do they know the actual aspects of it? Right? It doesn't just mean you have possession of the ball. You have to have the personal skill to do it. You have to have space and options. You also have to be able to have possession of the ball. So there's all these other considerations we think of do I give the foul or do I not? And when you process that, it is more than a second, probably roughly 2 seconds. And then because you practice it so much, there's that. So you have all these things stacking up. Then you actually have, do I blow the whistle or do I not? And as you like scan and look at like where people are before the foul happens, or you can sometimes some players are smart and you can smell it before it happens. You're like, ooh, they're coming in like this, they're gonna hit somehow, some way. So you have to feel the game for that. So taking all those things then comes up to decision making point.
right,
You have to take your snapshot, as we say, of like, okay, is it in
okay,
or is it out? Where was the contact? And we
okay,
go through point of contact, mode of contact, speed, meaning how fast did they come in,
mhm,
force. What type of force did they come in? Was it just like an arm? Was it leading straight leg? Was it, okay, I kind of bent my leg and I pulled back? So all of those build up. Then finally, you get to blowing the whistle or not. And you have to take your deep breath in, or you just keep running. So all of that quick pinch moments, um, build up of da 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 all this. Mind you, you're at 5 seconds, which feels like forever now, um, and you make your decision. And the hardest thing in those situations, if we were just going to talk about the penalty area, is, oh my God, was it in or out? And all of us panic because we're like, you should be already running in that position because you sense it coming. You should
Right.
already be in that position to see it. So it's a lot to go through that. And finally, you probably blow the whistle and say, okay, it's outside. Now, after that, you're like, oh God, if it's outside and it was the goalie for futsal, you're like, well, the goal is unguarded now, and now nobody's in there. It's a red. And you're like, "Ah, I wish I would have called it inside, because you're just like, I don't want to send this guy off. But you have to follow where your positioning was. And most people say it's easier to say that it's out because a PK is a huge KMI, but being fit, being prepared for the game, mentally preparing yourself for all of these games and situations, you have to be there. And don't guess, because if you guess, everyone's going to hate you and the world will come crashing down.
Right. Yeah. I am not going to be a referee anytime soon. Not
It's
even
hard,
close.
man.
Yeah, it's brutal. Uh, what about VR?
VR,
Yeah.
meaning,
The virtual referee, if I'm saying that right.
oh, that is something more in outdoor soccer?
None of that's in futsal international. No.
I haven't heard that. I don't, oh, the
And I don't know.
only,
I'm asking.
no, that's
Yeah.
fine. I think the only VR I've actually only ever heard of was just like video review, or
There
in
you go.
football it's video support, which is different. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, it's the same style of VAR and things like that, but we have not had. I saw an article on Facebook or something like that, and don't quote me on this, but
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, we're going to start using a different offside decision," and I was like, "What?
Oh,
It has to be like more of their whole body." I'm like, "Is this tying into this virtual referee
right.
style thing?" So no clue on that for futsal, to be honest.
Yeah, because when I've seen the international, like the referees, like they go like that with the box, and then they
Oh,
go.
okay. That's video support. I got you, man. I
Okay.
got you. Okay. So, um, VS or video support for futsal is the same concept as outdoor soccer when we do VAR, yeah, VAR when you go to the referee review kind of things. And mind you, it is very hard to figure out how you want to draw a box with one finger or two fingers. I
Yeah,
I was practicing before Nicaragua recently in April, and I was like, "Oh God, we're gonna have this." I'm like, "How do I draw a box?" And I'm
the
like,
circle.
"Yeah, right." So I was like, "Oh, I could go like this." And I'm like, "That's not square." So on topic, video support is it is a little bit experimental in adding more criteria or adding more situations they can do it. At least in Nicaragua, they told us like, "Oh, we're gonna try it for this too." We're like,
Okay. So
okay."
it's a try. It's new.
It has things settled down on what they actually use it for, because my colleague Josh Wilkins, he used it in the World Cup in 2021. So in Lithuania, I believe they
Okay.
used it there. But here at Nicaragua, they wanted to try one or two other things. I'm like, we didn't end up doing it, but it's basically knowing like, okay, misidentification, right? Is it the right person we red carded? um, is it goal or no goal? Did it go into the goal and come back out? Is it a foul inside of the penalty area? Stuff like that. And of course, like, did the ball actually go out of bounds first before it goes into the goal? Stuff like that. um, it's super helpful, like, if you're running as fast as you can go. Mind you, for futsal, the referee 3 or referee 5 will help out in that situation to have a goal line decision when the goalkeeper presses out. But you will have, hopefully, on your normal rec games or gloom game like this, you won't have a lot of that support, and it's just a clear replay of whether it goes in or not. And you come in, and once again, Josh has more experience with this than me, but to my understanding, what I've watched and trained for is you walk up to a box, you look down, and they play it at half speed or 1.5 speed or 2x speed, and they sometimes try and play a commercial in the background while you're going through this, and you look down at a box, and you slow it down and you talk over your communication system, right? And you say, hey,
Mm.
slow it down, or hey, watch this frame. And you just like watch, did I screw up or did I do this? And the hard part is you have to make the decision on the field, because most of the time you can't just say, oh, we're just going to review this. Like, before you restart after a goal has been scored or the ball goes out, you have to take that time. And you're usually like, okay, cool, I need to review this. And coaches challenge that. Now, mind you, I didn't read up on all of the rules for that. Once a coach challenges, if they're correct, I believe they keep their timeout for the next half. If they're incorrect, they lose their timeout. So, mind you, I don't remember that correctly.
How does the signal for the coach to make a challenge? Because like in football, they do the red flag.
Right, they throw it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know?
For so what I had seen and what I was a little disgust of what they're going to do is they hold up this little triangular prism. So it's just a
Hmm.
plastic folded little thing that says VS on it, and they hold it up like they want like to challenge it. And they come up and they tell the referee, "Hey, I want," or the referee's on the sideline, the third or
Right.
fifth, and they say, "Hey, I want to challenge this." And that referee then takes that and holds it up above their head and goes, "Okay, we're doing a video support," and they kind of like rotate. So I've seen them give something to the referee three. I've seen them hold something. I've seen them just saying, "Hey, I'd like to challenge this." It's very discreet for most of it until they like hold it up. So I wasn't trained in that quite exactly, but it was just by image and word of mouth.
Yeah, it's potentially the future, I guess, right? I know
Yeah.
football's doing it, um, basketball's doing it, so
Yep.
it helps the referees on those clutch calls, I suppose,
Hmm.
towards the end.
Yeah.
Um, what's one rule in futsal that you would recommend for better entertainment value? So this is a fun one. This is kind of make
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Like the last minute, you can use your hands, you can throw the ball into the goal. Just something wild. Like, what do you think would resonate with the fans?
I think the fans would probably like really appreciate like if you're going to throw it. And this is using a little bit of beach soccer and a little bit of
Okay,
outdoor
there you
soccer,
go.
but they have these opportunities of when you want to throw in the ball, you just like throw it in. I
And
wanna
beach
do
soccer.
something. Yes, in beach
Okay.
soccer, you because some kids, like, had the opportunity, like, "Oh, I just can't," because this is the weird part in beach soccer, you get the choice. Once you
Oh,
commit to making a
mm,
mound, you have to kick it in. Once you pick it up and you're like, "I'm gonna throw it in," you just throw it in.
interesting.
So right?
Interesting. Interesting.
So, using that idea and using outdoor soccer of what actually little girls and kind of like some players do, they do this flip thing, right? You put the ball down and then you flip over and you
Yeah.
just throw it in, right?
Yep.
For futsal, just for giggles, if you're going to throw in the ball in the last minute of each half, you have to do that flip because that takes some time and finesse and whatnot. Like, no, just don't pick up the ball and be like, huh. Like, you actually have to like be kind of a baddie and do it. That would be the little fun make believe rule I would love to see grown men and women and kids flip into. Mind you, it hurts when you
Yep.
screwed up.
Yep.
But that would like be like, okay, you have to really practice this or just don't do it. So it wouldn't really disrupt the flow of the game because it's like, oh, that's cool. Like it would encourage more of a loft
Right.
and more of a situation like I don't know. I need to watch Nick's clip, but like, did you chest it, then you did a bicycle kick? Because in beach soccer, a lot of people chest it first
Hmm.
and bump it, and then they
Hmm.
flip and do their kick. So you're like, that'd be kind of cool. I would be down for that. So
I could just see our goalies, Chucky and Jorge, doing this throw.
I get to see them go whoop pow,
Yeah.
and like I mean, those guys were funny, so it was funny
Yeah.
to talk to them during the game too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're a trip. Those guys they're great. Like, our fans love the goalies. Like Chucky and Jorge, like they're fan favorites, big time.
Yeah,
Like, and they're just such nice guys.
they
Like they're big in the
no,
goal,
really, they
and they're
are.
just so nice, so
Yeah,
respectful. So just great dudes.
I had
Uh,
a couple of favorite goalkeepers. Sorry,
no,
I had
go
a
ahead.
couple favorite goalkeepers in Nicaragua. Like one of them, when I went to check them in on the Cuba Panama game,
Hmm.
I walked in and he literally said, "Oh, you again?" I'm like, pues. I was like. I like sped up, like, wait with me, man. Like I was, because it was Cuba. I was like, okay, I can speak a little bit of Spanish
Yeah.
and English with
Yeah.
you guys. And he looked at me, and it was just, he was so upset. I'm like, I've been with you guys for like 3 games. You know how I ref. You know what I can tolerate. He's like, fine. And he was just a crack up during the game.
Yeah.
He would talk to me occasionally when he
Yeah.
was like sitting down on the bench. He
Yeah.
was just a fun guy. And I was like, you know what? These people are actually like nice when they're off the court, right?
Yeah.
When they're in the game, they're like, break, 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 break. And you're like,
Of course. Of
mm-hmm.
course.
I wish I could just roll my eyes. But goalkeepers, like, sadly, from being one as the height I was as I was a kid, until I moved to being a forward. And I was like, I just want to score goals now. But a
Mhm.
goalkeeper, they are a different kind of person, and they're either super sweet and show their confidence and aggression on the field, or they're just butt heads the entire time. You don't know how to tackle that until you talk to them. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, our goalies are the best. I
they
love
are.
Duke and Jorge. They're so nice, so competitive with each other, you know. So awesome. Let's
Yeah,
end with community involvement. The Santa Fe Gloom's all about this. You
yeah,
know, at the moment, our games are free. You know, thanks to our sponsors, and we want to build up our community, make it accessible for everybody to come out to these games. And it's been proven when you came out to the Santa Fe versus Brewster game, it was a good crowd. And that was actually even like one of our games where we maybe had like 250, 300. The other games were definitely more than 300. But talk us through kind of how you're a role model in the community and building up referees and just the community involvement you do. Because the Santa Fe Gloom and Santa Fe were so dedicated to that. And what you where you see yourself in the future too, and just women referees. So kind of a loaded question, but you can just take it from there.
yeah. That's fine. There's a lot that goes into giving back, and mind you, I work Monday through Friday at a full time job, and then I do futsal on the weekends. And thank goodness my manager loves that. I communicate with him and I tell him I'm taking time off. But giving back, I actually have to put blocks on my weekends to make sure I can give back. In June coming up, June 22, 23, 24, that weekendish, my dad's an assigner for a futsal league, and I told myself block that off to get back,
Yeah,
because without development on the bottom you can't really have someone rise up to the top.
yeah,
And although it's just futsal, there is so much you can give back to outdoor soccer, anything of that. And then what I personally do is make sure I have structure. I have something I want to tell you or something I want
hmm
to help you with.
hmm
You have to gauge whether someone wants to listen or not. But I know from being a referee mentor for 2, 3 years, I believe, this year I'm going to get my referee coach license, which means I can go and do more things and teach classes and all of that jazz. Um, but you have to make it relatable to the person that their age is and see how you can relate to them. I give back by making, silly little stories for kids, and I tell them all these things that I've done, or, hey, what do you think about this? But I connect with them. And that's
hmm
super, super, super important to me, to be not just happy of like talking to somebody, because I'm an extrovert, clearly,
yeah,
um, but to connect and like help them understand a concept, because not everybody in the whole world understands offside. Goodness, that's a whole different podcast. We could talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But not everybody in the whole world understands the importance of not counting 4 seconds fast of one, two. It's like one,
hmm yeah,
two. So like delaying that and making sure that information is received to them, it's so hard. And I know it takes time. And that's what I want to give back to the people that are up and coming.
yeah.
Those that are already in it, we had a futsal state cup, I believe, like 2 or 3 months before I went to Nicaragua. I actually spoke on that webinar. I put a slide deck together. I told them the importance of these things, clearly laying out definitions. And I felt good, like
hmm
helping my colleagues that are, that I've worked with before for countless years, and just laying something out for them to like hold on to. So that's like the current age of someone that's already been, exposed to it. That's all with mentoring and helping. Like that's kind of like the style that I do it. Now, to tackle up and coming girls or
Hmm.
women or
Hmm.
young teenagers or people my age that want to get involved in it, there is such a hard stigma of knowing how to interact with people. And if you don't know how to talk with people or be yourself, be professional, but be yourself, that's where we all struggle. So I encourage all of the people that I come across of know how to connect to yourself and connect to the person that you're talking to. It doesn't have to everything be in common. You just have to know how to lay down your defenses and connect. And that's what I teach so many people that I come across. I'm like, hey, you don't need to yell at them. You don't need to attack them. Just say, hey, what did I do? Or da 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 this. Hey, I'm doing my best. Work with me. Help me help you. And just a couple phrases I teach people just to like keep in the back of their head when they're refing. And to connect that of giving back and connect that to what the future holds, right? I think that was the next follow up for your question
Hmm.
is
Yep.
what the future holds. Like if you practice and practice and practice, that helps create habit. Creating habits help go through things in seconds during a game. And it's helping build the future of those that are trying to come up and trying to, not be scared to talk to a coach who's taller than them, right?
Hmm.
Hopefully, we have considerate people out there in the world that don't just want to yell at a 12-year-old little kid that's starting
Hmm.
out, right?
Hmm.
There's more structure and things to slow down the game to make them stop. Back then, we had to tolerate all this yelling and screaming. Now, you have more support. We have our learning center for U.S. soccer. That's where you can sign up to be a referee. You can choose outdoor soccer, you can choose beach, you can choose futsal, any curriculum you want.
Hmm.
And that learning center helps us find education there or helps find connections there of people in your local area, even in New Mexico, right? You can see like, oh, this is where my signer is, or oh, this is who I can talk to, or all these opportunities to go to field sessions or learning stuff. I tell myself that one of my assigners, Sam, I try and connect with her and say, hey, what can I do to help? And building that future of knowing that futsal looks like it's not going to shape up as well if we don't have people sign up for it. And they're like, oh, it's just a sport. And not to like throw the sport I love under the bus, but people are like, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They're like, oh, it's just, they always say this. Oh, it's only a 40-minute game. It's 20 and 20. I'm like, have you guys seen our games? Like, stop clock. It is almost 2 hours. It's an hour and a half. You kidding me? And making that other audience, and I feel bad for saying making, but making that other audience understand it is a whole different sport of finesse. It is like you know how to kick a ball, but it's a whole different style of like connection and doing things for that game. So to build that future, you need to have people down below that you can help and push up and coaches that aren't going to scare kids off the field because you've seen so many news reports of things
Hmm.
things that are scary that happened and court cases and all that jazz that we don't need to get into. It's not being scared of potentially getting hit. I've been hit once in my life. It was terrible.
Hmm.
And I was giving a red card and I was like, up. And as my card went up, it went straight through the card and I got hit. I was like, oh, I just got hit. And I was like, it's scary things in life like that. So to break that down and tell all the younger referees that you don't need to be scared, you have more support now. And you can talk to anyone local and find them and ask for guidance. So I love to make sure that I can specifically help my dad. I love you, Dad, so much. But I love, helping my dad out and finding those like opportunities to teach people and go wherever I can.
That was going to be my last question, but I got another one.
Go ahead, go
Uh,
ahead, go ahead.
yeah, the future of futsal in the United States. What's your opinion on it? Where can
We
be the improvements? Where do you think it is now?
Yeah,
Uh, Again, because you're the leader in this,
yeah.
So, your opinion on it?
The future in the United States is starting to shape up as long as we get referees to go into it. We do have, I don't know if anybody on this call or with you have looked into it, but Carrie Seitz, she is the head of refereeing. She's a VP for that, I believe, if I'm remembering the title right. She is helping futsal so much. Mind you, guys, Can't talk too much about what other people get in outdoor soccer, but FIFA for outdoor soccer has established levels of what they do get. Stipends, salary, things like that. Futsal, nothing. And
Yeah.
so we're like, well, we're
And why is
paid.
that?
It just
In,
isn't looked at much, and that's the sad part. It's everywhere in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Mexico, like all the
Yeah.
people I met there, Mexico, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Salvador, Cuba, all those referees I met, they have futsal establishment of its importance. And sadly, it's a lot of the United States didn't really look at futsal being an actual badge. Like, sucks is some of my colleagues thought, oh, it's just futsal. And I'm like, excuse me.
Hmm.
Like, it's not just futsal, it's a FIFA badge. I worked my butt off for it. Thank you guys. But people don't look at it seriously. And to like break that down is have someone of strong intelligence, power that she is helping us get these things paid for, because most of these tournaments I went to, I did like pay out of pocket for that. And
Right.
it sucks because like
Yeah.
once you want to become best, you have to invest in yourself. So she's helping out with that. My mentor is helping out with that. They're creating a plan for all of us to like be funded for these things, the FIFAs to go to these events to prepare for World Cup qualifiers, da da
Yeah.
da 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 da. And it is going to shape up. And knowing that we have all these sources of knowledge and not just like outdoor referee coaches going to watch you, you have your FIFAs now in the United States. You have those that are going to come to these events to help you, to mentor you, to tell you, like, oh, hey, by the way, when you guys want to give a yellow card to a player doing an improper substitution, you're like, okay, that's standard. But it's like there's a time and place. Like a little U8 kid, someone that knows the book is going to be like, card. And you're like, work
Right.
with them. Like, say, hey,
Yeah.
coach, hold them if
Yeah.
you have to before they come in, or let them, like a saloon door, come in, come out, right? So in that situation, like, we have more mentors to give back now. We have people that are experienced who have seen those things, right? You can't just start talking whatever. You have to like see it, experience it, and then give it out. Like that's the biggest thing here. And now that there's three of us, Josh Wilkins, Matthew Rodman, Krystin Pahia, now there's us. We can give back so much more and help spread the love of it, honestly, because I was not expecting to be on the final for my like first tournament. I mean, this thing is real, you guys. It's like it's hard. But I wasn't expecting to get this on my first game of like, or sorry, first tournament of being international and being the first woman ever to be in the United States to get my FIFA badge, and the first woman ever of that region to do a final. Like, you have to give back. You
Yeah.
have to have that humbleness to give
Yeah.
back and help somebody. You have to feel, maybe it's just me saying you have to, but it's making sure that those who are piquing interest, you give them that bone to chew on. You give them that, something, energy that they need, positive vibes to it. So, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Again, we're just so like flattered that you came to Santa Fe to ref our last home opener. All of your answers were just incredible.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have you on again. I'm going to figure out how we can, if you feel comfortable, have Nick's bike and see if you can like just go shot for shot, frame for frame. Again, we're so bitter about it, and we can kind of get your opinion if you feel comfortable. I can see if I can get my guy.
I would let you pull it up right now on your phone
Yeah,
and be like, watch this,
yeah,
Kristen. Be
I
like,
could probably
yes.
send it to you, but we run it on our channel to see to get a
Yeah.
FIFA referee to say, hey, this is where it's at, and if you do call a foul, I don't know, but I don't think you will.
I don't know. I'm not a Raiders fan supporter,
Yeah,
so we may differ.
yeah, it may get rough,
Yeah.
but thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to mention to our Santa Fe Gloom audience or anything? But thank you so very much, and we definitely want to have you on again too.
Gloom audience, please tell me more about where to eat good food over in your guys' area. Like, I was in Albuquerque a lot. I may be going back a little bit more, but someone tell me where I can get a good burrito, or like, chile verde or carne asada, something. So if anybody has any good feedback or notes on that, I'm a foodie. I love any type of food. Something not too spicy because I'm a chicken in that, but I
Did
look
you eat
forward
any
to.
food when you came to Santa Fe?
I had a snack, and it was at was it at the gas station? And then we carried on. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, that's all I kinda remember. I was like, "I'm tired. I ran my butt off." I think I ran, like, 6.5 miles in that game. So yeah, I know. So I was like, "I'm just tired." So but yeah, anybody recommend any food, please tell me, whether it's Albuquerque or Santa Fe, but mainly Santa Fe. I like you guys.
Yeah, we've got the best food for sure.
Okay.
Like we've got like pretty much everything you can think of because it's like a real destination city. You know, it's an
Yeah.
international city, and we've got great New Mexican food, Mexican food. It's top notch, and Albuquerque does too. But my taste buds are obviously my hometown. So,
Yeah.
but thank you so much. We'll have you on again. It was a pleasure, and we're so honored to even talk to you.
Of
So
course. My pleasure, you guys.
great. Thank you so much. Thanks.